What's going on, everybody? Sparks Comics here, and I'm doing a different video today because I wanted to respond to a video that I saw out there from House Comics, who puts out some great videos about collecting, about holding on to comics with value, when to sell, when to buy, things like that, investments in comics, and a lot of comics about the Silver Age. And he did a video today. He turned 40, so happy birthday, House. He talked about his demographics on his channel, and I thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about because I think a lot of different channels have way different demographics, and it says different things about who's collecting and reading what types of comics in the comic community. So I figured it'd be interesting to look at what our channel demographics have and how that compares to some of the things that he was talking about over on his channel. So this is a look at our demographics on the channel, and I think there's some really cool things to see on this type of page here, including that only 65% of our viewers in the last 28 days are from the United States, which I think is actually lower than a lot of other channels, at least lower compared to Swaggle House. I think his number was somewhere in the 70-something percent. It's a little bit on the lower side there. So hello, world, and thank you for watching our videos. Really appreciate you guys being here. Other interesting things that you can pull from this data is the number of people that are not subscribed but are watching the videos. So if you are one of those people, go ahead and smash the subscribe button down below and join us. I really appreciate everyone who's been joining us. We had a lot of growth recently, new people coming to the channel. So I appreciate that. If you're part of that 50% that's not subscribed, please join us. But the main thing I really wanted to focus on was age and gender of people watching our videos. We actually do a lot differently, I feel like, demographically than some of those bigger channels out there, and I love that. I love that the demographics that we're hitting feels like the people who indie comics resonate with a little bit more. So in the age and gender area of the YouTube demographics, it has a spot for female, male, and user specified. I feel like in the last 28 days, just based on the number of people that view our videos, we may not have enough data to pull anything out of that, but I am sure it is more than 0%, and it's not quite pulling other data, but I'm not sure. The thing that I think is most interesting is that 26.3% of our viewers are female versus 73.7% male. A lot of other channels I see, when they do talk about their demographics, that number is less than 10%. Swaggle House is 2.7% in his last 28 days. And I think this is a lot about who is collecting and reading indie comics. And so shout out to our female viewers that are in the indie community. You guys are awesome. You guys are the future of comic readership, because as Swaggle House was talking about his channel, a lot of his viewers are in that 45 to 54 year category. They're hitting that older age demographic when you're talking about the Silver Age comics, when you're talking about investments in comics, when you're talking about that type of information, versus we're talking about the stories here. We're talking to creators creating the future of comics, creating those indie comic properties, and demographics speak for it right there, with 25 to 34 hitting the peak of viewership, which that's the category I fall into, and then 18 to 24 being second place. So a very young, skewed audience on here, and then 35 to 44 being in third place behind that. I think that's awesome. I really do. I think that shows hope and growth of the comic community, because we are seeing that the younger audience is reading indie comics. The female audience is reading indie comics a lot more so than the Silver Age comics and collecting those old ones. And in his video, he's talking about, does this mean that the comic readership is dying out as they're getting older? And I think this right here shows that that is not the case. We are getting new comic readers coming in at a younger age, going for indie comics because they do not have to go and look at years and years of history of a comic character in order to get into the story behind the character. And that is why I love indie comics, because you can explore a brand new world without having to read 50 years worth of comics. I know there are a lot of good jumping on points in Marvel and DC comics, and that is why I love reading the occasional tale from over there as well. But I think with indie comics, we can see right here that the future of comics is definitely in our younger readers who are picking up those indie comics and collecting new stories that are out there. So that's why I wanted to pull this up. And you may ask, does the viewers' demographics change if we go back to 365 days? And numbers shift slightly, 25 instead of 26% female, not much difference there. We're still seeing the peak of the age being in that 25 to 34 area, and then followed by our 18 to 24 year olds here. I think actually the United States goes lower on geography there, so that's interesting. And still not subscribed, 51.1%. I went up. So if you're not subscribed, again, a reminder, just hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Let me know, do you think this is unique or interesting in terms of who we have watching these videos? What do you think this says about the growth of comics over time? Really love to know your guys' thoughts. My thought is just that this means young readers are getting into indie comics and not as much into Silver Age, Bronze Age, Marvel, and DC comics. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think this is an interesting conversation to have. Shout out to Swaghouse Comics for creating the video that he did, because that spurred me to go and look at this information. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think demographics may say about readership. Of course, we are here mostly talking about indie comics. Occasionally we talk about some of our love of other things. Caroline always talking about Poison Ivy. We're going to be talking to Sweeney Boo coming up about not just her indie comic graphic novels that she has, but her work coming up on Harley Quinn over at DC Comics. So we get a little mix in there, but mostly we're here for the indie comics, for those new and unique story ideas coming from awesome creators. And we've got a lot of awesome comic creators coming up next month for you guys. So be on the lookout for some really awesome, crazy interviews. And if you this week are missing our interviews because we don't have any this week, go ahead and watch some of our old ones. Especially recommend checking out Charlie Stickney's interview that we just did last week. We talk a lot about Kickstarter comics and creating comics, and you really need to check out the interview with Liana Kingus and Sarah Gailey. We talk about Know Your Station, and we go very off topic talking about space slides. And if there is a space slide at the end of this story, I am going to die of laughter. But Know Your Station, 3 issues out right now from Boom Studios, and I'm loving this story. But we went a little off the rails in our interview, and it was a great time. So please go check all of that out. I will try to throw one of those links at the end of this video so you can go view those interviews real easily. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you aren't already. And as always, collect what you love. We'll see you next time.